Today, our instructor is Michael Huggins. Here's a guy that started working on automobiles, didn't even have one of his own, and yet he had the belief that life could be better, and he worked for it. He sought out the best information. That was, of course, Renatus, and he applied the principles that he was learning. Look what he's doing today. He is driving some of the sweetest cars in the world. He is jet setting all over the world. He is a nationally renowned speaker here with our Renatus teams all over the country. And this morning he's with us. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Ron. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Money Monday. Beautiful day. We'll get started here. I have a link for all of you. Last Wednesday, Mr. Stark did a training for the new registrars on how to use the new Helio system. So I got the link for you right here. There we go. There we go. And sending it to you. All right. So it's going to be in the chat box. There we go. There we go. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. So now you got that link. You'll be able to follow up on that training. Big time. Big changes are happening in Renatus. Big shifts. All right. July 1st is coming up real quick. So are you guys following up, letting people know the price is going up? We're getting some sales. People are finding out price is going up, and we're getting some sales. How's it going for you guys? All right, we'll pull up the screen share here. Price is going up. All right, so what in that context of the prices going up, what do you guys want to talk about to make sure that you guys are making money with it? Okay. That link isn't working for me. What do you mean, Joe? What are you talking about? It's definitely working. Definitely working, Joe. I just clicked on it and it opened up a window for me. I'll click on it again. Yeah, it's still working. Alicia and Joe, I don't know. It's working for Robbie and Peter. It's working for Diana, but not for Joe and Alicia. Maybe you guys need to reset your, or clear your cache, clear your cookies. Sometimes that will interrupt things like this. It's definitely a good link. Yeah, text it to yourself and then, or email it, copy paste, email it to yourself. And when you get on your computer, you can access it. Cool. All right, look at that. Teamwork, dreamwork already. Maybe you need to download the app, the GoToWebinar app, perhaps. Okay, well, the price is going up, guys. Price is going up. So I don't know if you guys know, but I'm a part of the John Maxwell group, John C. Maxwell, and he does a lot of training and training trainers. And so me and a couple other folks here in Renatus have been taking some of that training so that we can bring some value to you guys. So I've got a little PowerPoint I want to fly through with you just so we're on the same page. Don't include the period following the link. There you go. Maybe that's what's doing it. All right, so share. I'm going to share PowerPoint. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we're going to talk about the law of intentionality. While you guys are thinking up questions about the price going up, we got one more week to leverage that to get more sales. So while you're thinking of stuff, let me know. All right, so law of intentionality means growth doesn't just happen. We have to be on purpose about it. Yes, we want growth, but like every other being on this planet, we actually choose how much we grow. Everything else, it just grows to its max. But we have to actually, we have to intentionally and purposefully grow. So what are you doing on purpose? We are halfway through the year. We're in June. You set goals in January for all of 2018. Are you working your plan? Are you halfway there? Vanessa and I just looked at our numbers, and we got to ramp it up. We're about 10% off, maybe 15% off of where we want to be right now in order for us to hit our $1 million mark by the end of the year. So we are staying focused. We're working our plan. We're planning to work. But if you don't have a plan, there's a couple of reasons why. There's a gap going on between where you are now and where you want to be. And there's actually different gaps depending on who we are. And when I'm talking about the gap is the distance between where we are and where we want to be, that gap. So there's a couple issues that are holding people back. So let's talk about them. The first one is the assumption gap, where people think just because they're alive, they're going to grow. That's a challenge. It's not going to happen. You have to intentionally grow. Other people have the knowledge gap, where they just don't know how. They see where they are, they see where they want to go, but they just don't know how to get there. Some people will use the timing gap. Now's not a good time for me. Oh, yeah, now working on myself, now's not a good time. I need to fix problems, now's not a good time. For me to even think about growing, now's not a good time. That's the language, that's what people are using. And the other one is the mistake gap. People say along the way they're going to screw something up, and so until they know they can do it right, they don't want to make mistakes, they're not going to close that gap. Close the gap from where you are to where you want to be. Here's a couple more reasons some people will not close that gap. The perfection gap, right? Well, I'm going to find the best way before I start. And they're all proud of being a perfectionist, but really a perfectionist is just a procrastinator. That's all that is. The inspiration gap, some people just aren't motivated, apathetic towards life. Okay, that's different. The comparison gap, trying to compare to others in front of you or people who have been in longer or achieved more. Don't compare. That comparison will make the gap wider. And then the expectation gap, some people closing that gap between where you are and where you want to be. Some people thought it was way easier than it was going to be. So they had different expectations, and now they're using those expectations as a reason to not close the gap. So what are you doing? Where are you at? Okay, people are getting links. It's still working. Right on. Okay, back to the PowerPoint. Closing the gap. Where you are, where you want to be. Here we are in June. Where did you say you were going to be in December? Let's close that gap. Okay, there's the intentional growth. Some of us had big goals. We talked about it. talked about it, but we didn't defend it. We didn't make it a priority. We just had it as a nice thing to say, as a nice thing to talk about. So here's some questions. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? What direction do you want to go? What's the furthest you can imagine yourself going? And how long will it take? You guys thought about that question? The third one, what's the furthest you can imagine going? Can you see yourself on the pit team by the end of the year? Can you see yourself joining the pack next year? Can you see yourself getting some awards at nationals? What about at the leaders retreat? What's the furthest you imagine going? And go a little bit further. Oh, let's do it now. No, really, do it now. Seriously, what are you waiting for? The intentional growth. And this intention is with all areas, not just your business, but also with your language, also intentionally eating, intentionally sleeping, intentionally reading, intentionally exercising, intentionally thanking people, intentionally sending gratitude, right? All these things. Now, people will, in their attempt to close the gap, be stopped by fear. So let's talk about a few of the fears so that we can get over them, because there's not that many, but they're a part of the experience we're having, so let's talk about them. Fear of failure. When this fear is actually and logically addressed, we start to ask people, well, what is the failure? What do you mean when you say failure? Well, a lot of the times when people have a fear of failure, and then we have them define failure, they've created such a definition that it's unavoidable, right? The fear of failure of, well, like they say, I don't want to make a mistake. Fear of failure, I don't want to make a mistake. Well, as a human, you're going to make mistakes. So if that's your definition of failure, making a mistake, then no matter how you go about life, you're going to be a failure with that definition. Because if you stay an employee, you're failing. If you go into business, you're failing. If you're neither, you're failing. If you're both, you're failing. You got to fail either way. What about the fear of trading security for the unknown, right? A lot of people mislabel having a job or having a salary as security, and now they're going to give that up for this opportunity, for growing, for having a business. What about the fear of running out of money, overextending on resources? That, to me, is not a real failure or a real fear, because we live in the country with the most resources, such an abundance of resources, that if we have this fear of not having resources, then then even in the right country, what are you thinking? Like, we could drop you in Antarctica. Then I could see you having the fear of a lack of resources or being overextended. But here in America, we just need to adopt this attitude of resourcefulness. All right, the fear of what others think. That's a real thing too that people are experiencing. All right, quit drawing on the screen. You notice that? Okay, or we can all draw together. Let's do that instead. Let's just draw. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, we'll clear them. Okay, the fear of what others think. This one's a big one for a lot of people, because the reason why they're getting into business is because they care so much about what others think that they want to take care of them. And now they have this fear, but they think, oh no, I'm getting into this new training program. I'm joining these people. They're all weird. They're all talking about abundance and helpfulness, and they're talking about capitalism. And I don't know what my friends are going to think. This is going to be weird. If we thought about what others were thinking. Okay, really though, why are you still drawing? That was a joke when I was like, hey, let's all draw and make arrows and stuff. That was a joke. Stop it. There's a button on your setting. If you're on the app, you tap on your phone. There's a button down at the bottom that says annotate. Deselect that, and then you can move around in the app and you won't be drawing. But if you have the annotate selected, then you're going to keep drawing. Yep, just like that. Anyway, the fear of what others think. This one, I don't know how to reconcile this one for others. For me, it's just I stopped caring. I stopped caring what others think. I will just do what I'll do the proper etiquette for the place I'm in, but I won't care what others think. It's too much. It's too much, man. I'm trying to work on building this system, this business for you guys, that if I go around thinking what other people think, I won't have any time or energy or effort to keep working on our system. So we cannot care what other people think. Plus, did you know that most people don't even know what they're thinking, let alone control what they're thinking? So what others are thinking is just so random and obscure that if you try to care what they're thinking, you're not going to have a life. And the fear of pushing others away, sometimes because we're growing and we're growing at a rapid pace, others will be intimidated. But do not take that as a sign to slow down. We're here, we're growing these businesses so that we can help the people in our families and our friends and their families. That's why we're doing this. And so temporarily, people may withdraw because you're still learning more about who you are, how to run a business, and how to think differently. But once that's all settled and now you've got your resources, your business is growing at a steady pace, they're not going to push people away. They're going to be attracted to you. So let's not let these fears close the gap in front of us. Okay, take a screenshot of this. This is drawing a comparison between accidental growth and intentional growth, and how often people will just take on this mentality of accidental growth and never really hit their full potential. So intentional growth means insisting on starting right now, taking responsibility to grow, learning from your mistakes, relying on hard work, persevering, fighting for good habits, follows through, takes risks, thinks like a learner, relies on character and not on talent, and never stops learning. We got to be intentional about our growth, especially if we're not where we want to be from January to December. Here we are halfway through. Are you being intentional about this stuff? Okay, that's a lot of intentionality. Now let's talk about the law of awareness. So the law of awareness means knowing yourself so you can grow yourself. Now this is an interesting question, right? Who are you? Who are you? What are you doing here? Where are you from? Where are you going? These are big questions. But we got to be aware. So constantly, and I hear Bob Snyder do this too, is he is doing a SWOT analysis on himself constantly. So let's do that on our own selves. Let's do that with our teams. Let's say you have a new IMA, or maybe you're running a new team. You got 5 people, 10 people, 20 people. Doesn't matter. Spend some time and create a training situation where you have everyone on your team ask the questions and answer. What are your strengths, your weaknesses, your interests, your opportunities? And you'll be amazed at some of the people with their strengths and their interests and their opportunities. And it's also interesting to see what some people are considering to be their weaknesses. And sometimes your strengths, if it goes too far, can turn into a weakness, right? Let's say one of your strengths is you're a good listener, a really good listener, right? When people are talking, you're really good at listening and you can connect with them in a conversation. But you might take that too far and it'll turn into a weakness, right? If you are only a listener and you never actually talk or lead them or ask some effective questions to get them to take action, and you just are a really good listener and you're polite in the conversation, then it turns into a weakness. Right? Well, what about the strength of working really hard, staying focused, right? Burning the midnight oil, as they say. Well, that can be turned into a weakness also, because there's called the law of diminishing returns, where if you don't rest, then you just get less and less out of your work. So your strengths, if they're gone too far, sometimes can be turned into a weakness, and that's something to be aware of. You got to get to know yourself, right? We sometimes have identified with this strength so much that that's what we do so much that it becomes a weakness, right? I did that years and years ago. One of my strengths, I don't care what people think about me. That's a good strength to have, but it can be taken so far that it becomes a weakness, and then I start repelling people. And I remember having to correct that and saying, okay, I don't need to be so proud of this strength that this is the only thing I'm doing. It becomes a weakness. So something to be thinking about. Okay, so where are you? Where do you want to be? How do we close that gap? Okay, so there are three kinds of people out in the world. Who are you? There are people who don't know what they would like to do. They just show up and they're like, well, others are showing up, so I'm showing up, and they don't know what they like, so they're confused. Then there are the people who know what they want, but they don't do it. They don't do anything for it. They don't go after it. They're frustrated. Right? They know what they want and they don't have it. Frustration is inevitable. But the people who know what they want and go for it feel fulfilled. So again, who are you? Take a screenshot of this, and maybe sometimes you'll need to bring this up with your follow-ups, with your one-on-ones, with your phone calls where they're like, well, I don't know if I should do this. And sometimes we're on the phone with our prospects and all we're talking about is them spending money. And it just gets to be where they're like, gosh, this is the only topic. I don't want to do this anymore. So you need to switch topics constantly. The reason why I make so much money is because we're not always talking about money. We're talking about growth, and people want to be involved in growth, so they'll happily spend their money to be involved in growth. So take some of these questions, and while you're having those closing conversations, finding out where their money's coming from, when they're doing this, when they're doing that, say, you know what? I was on a training the other day, and I thought I'd share this with you, and then bust out some training. Add the value, get them to think differently, think something other than spending money, get them excited about what's possible, and then go back to the money thing and say, all right, well, the only way to get this is to enroll. And then we got to clean up those contradictions. Some people think, 20 grand is a lot of money. And then they want to be a millionaire, and they want to give themselves more than a $20,000 raise. So asking these questions is critical for creating a positive future for people, and also to avoid the reputation of all you care about is their money. Bring your awareness to what you're doing, your intentions. Also, when you're doing your follow-up calls, I recommend it on the follow-up call, not on the first call, because sometimes you end up having a half-hour phone call with somebody, and it turns out you don't want to work with them, or they're not qualified, or they don't have money, and they were just pretending, or something. So when you're doing your follow-ups, even at the end of the first meeting, ask people this question: if you knew you could not fail, what would you do? I'm going to ask you that. If you knew you could not fail, what would you do? See, now I know I can't fail, so I just keep doing. I know it because failure is stopping. Failure is quitting. Failure is giving up. So if I don't give up, then I'm not failing. Then I can do whatever I want. So use that question. Especially with the relators and the validators, those types of people. If you just keep talking about money and helicopters and boats and cruises and vacations and penthouses, sometimes they don't really care that much. When you start asking them, like, well, what's your goal? What's your strength? What's your weakness? What's your opportunity? What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Think about this though. you gotta ask people, do you like what you're doing? If a person sets out to run a mile and 3/4 of a mile ahead there's a cliff, should that person try to finish running the mile just because he started out to do so? So a lot of times we're talking to people like, well, I started on this master's degree, or I started on this, and well, I started this other business, and I can't do Renatus now because I started this other business. I joined this other company. I'm doing this, that. Okay, that's fine. Do you like doing what you're doing? And again, if a person sets out to run a mile and 3/4 of a mile ahead, there's a cliff, that person's determination to finish the job, regardless of new information, is going to ultimately be their demise. It's going to be their failure. That strength turned into a weakness. So changing direction is a risk. But what if you don't change direction? You got to ask your customers that, right? Here they are looking at a way to make money. They think going back to school or getting another job or starting a different business so that they can then afford this or afford that. All that's a waste of time. Unless they like doing what they're doing, unless they enjoy it, unless that was their goal. But if their goal is to make money, they should be working with us. That's a no-brainer. So I guess the easiest thing so Charlene just put a question in here. What is your method for determining what someone is in the drive system? So the easiest way to do that would be to just pull out all 5 cards and ask them, which one do you resonate with the most? So will someone put in the Facebook group a picture of all 5 so Charlene and I and others can have them? And then we can just take a screenshot on our phone and say, hey, which one of these do you identify with the most? All right. So in talking about this, changing direction is a risk, but what if you don't change? Right? Those people are like, well, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. What if you don't recognize that cliff in front of you, and here's all your friends cheering you on? You're like, woohoo! You're running. Look at you. You said you were going to run, and now you're running. Keep going. And all of their friends who are uninformed about what's going on are also cheering them on about running. Finish that mile. You said you were going to finish it. But we know there's a cliff, and now they're resistant to it. Changing direction is a risk, but what if you don't change? So we have to use our questions, use our persuasiveness, use our storytelling abilities to let people know about changing direction is not as risky as continuing on what they're doing. And just got to ask, which risk would you rather live with? Now, and also becoming aware of your passion and your purpose and why you would even join a program like this, why you're even in this program. Again, sometimes I'm talking to you on the line, and sometimes I'm talking through you to your customer, and you're just going to say that to your customer. Okay? Well, what would you like to do? Think about when people say, oh, I'm burnt out. The only reason people get burnt out is because they're doing the wrong thing. Burnt out is not doing too much of something. Burnout is doing any amount of the wrong thing. So, people ask me all the time, I've been in Renatus for 8 years now, right? I do my follow-ups. Like, how long have you been doing this? 8 years. I love it. And they go, don't you get burnt out? I'm like, what? No way, man. I'm doing the right thing. There's no burnout here. The burnout would be if I'm not doing the right thing, if I'm doing something that's against my energies, against my goals, then of course you're going to be burnt out. Right? When people have a craptastic job, even if it on the outside it looks good, they're making 80, 100,000 a year, right? Things are okay on the outside, but on the inside they hate it. They're feeling burnt out, not because they're doing too much of that thing, but because they're doing the wrong thing for who they want to be, for their passion and purpose. That's what I mean when I say wrong. It's an individual thing about them following their passion and their purpose. If they're not, then they'll feel burnt out, and that's why we call it the wrong thing. Can you do what you want to do? So sometimes people aren't clear, and so they're not able to actually define or register, is this something I can do? When was the last time you took an inventory of your talents and your gifts? So again, depending on the follow-up calls and who your guests are, this is another question to ask. What unique talents and gifts can you bring to the table? And then they're going to start talking about relationships they have, skills they have, software they have, or something they have to bring to the table. And then ask them, well, what drives them? Why? What's the point? Here's what drives Bob Snyder. He wants to protect capitalism. He wants to make sure that people aren't duped by Wall Street, financial institutions, the IRS. He's got the right motive. He'll never get burned out because he's doing his purpose. Now, continuing to expand our awareness, how do you do what you want to do? What kind of actions do you want to take? Who do you need to attract? What accountability do you need to be held to on a daily, hourly, a minute-by-minute basis, a weekly, monthly accountability? How are we going to go about doing what we want to do? Everyone's plan is different, but this is part of creating that intentional growth. And now it's time to be. So we were talking about finding your purpose, how to go about it, knowing what to do, and now be. So there's the knowing, there's the doing, and then there's the being. All right, we are special. We are human beings. All right, we don't say dog being, cat being. We say human being. So there's something about our beingness, who we're being, what we be in the world, that is special. So be committed, be consistent, be creative, be powerful, be reflective, and be grateful. Be committed as in unwavering with distractions. Every day there's a distraction. We get bombarded with, I don't even know now, 500 ads a day or something crazy like that. Be consistent. Don't fall into that stuff. Some of you guys, I got to tell you, I just spent $12 on YouTube Red. $12 a month, YouTube Red. No more commercials. I love it. I'm not bombarded with ads anymore. Cool, I spent $12, whatever. Now, also, you guys, if you didn't know, with YouTube Red, you can also download videos, and you can lock your screen and I'll keep playing. So now my battery is going to last longer. I can still continue to listen to different trainings and motivational stuff throughout the day, and I don't have to put up with any stupid ads. So I'm being committed and consistent with what I'm trying to consume, with what I'm trying to put into my brain every day. And for the longest time, I just had a stupid mindset around, I don't want to spend money. I'd rather spend my time. And then I realized, nope, that's an employee brain. I'm going to spend my money so I can skip this stupid ad time. So much value. So be creative, right? Try something new. I remember for a while when we were doing our EPIC plan, we were doing the education, properties, income, community. This is before we had our 4 pillars, right? And we would talk about our program in that order: education, properties, income, community. And then I was like, you know what? Let's mix it up. Let's do community, income, properties, education. And we were just being creative with this. Now, we didn't change the content. We just changed the order of the content. Okay, so when you guys get the presentations from corporate, you don't get to change the content. If you want to change the order, get creative, by all means. You're going to also add your own personal flair to it, but there's some stuff that cannot be changed. You can change the order, be creative that way. Be creative in how you deliver it. Be creative in the time of day you're doing things, right? And I was just in LA last weekend, and they're getting creative with their Super Saturday schedule, right? They're doing it from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. And I thought that was awesome. So people can still do their Saturday morning rituals and then be there Saturday afternoon. That's great. Here in Denver and Salt Lake, we got creative with our Super Saturdays, and we figured out how we could cram it all in from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And that way people still have the majority of their Saturday. You just got to get creative with this stuff. How you explain velocity banking to someone, how you are introducing them to Renatus. Sometimes you got to get creative about it. Being purposeful is so attractive. When you have purpose and intention, people want to be around you. Think about that. How many Americans, if you take a survey of 100 Americans and you ask them, what's your purpose? How many of them will even have an answer within 5 minutes, let alone an answer right away? So when you have your purpose, top of mind awareness, you will be so attractive that people without a purpose will follow you just because you have a purpose. And being reflective, stand by. Being reflective is also something that most broke people won't do because they think it's a waste of time. They'd rather just work harder instead of being reflective. So being reflective means sitting back, analyzing, reviewing. What did you do yesterday? What did you do last week? What did you do last month, last year? So that means going over your calendar. How many of you opened up your calendar and looked at the appointments you held the last 6 months and reviewed that and said, should I keep doing it this way? Should I continue this schedule? All right, we got to be reflective in what we're doing. Reflective in the conversations we have. When we hang up, when we get off the phone with someone, and we reflect on how that went. How did it go? Did it work? So this is one thing I do pretty regularly now. I go back through my calendar and go, wow, should I keep doing that? Is that worth it? What do I need to change here? So be reflective. Just looking at your calendar app or looking at your paper calendar is so insightful into what you should be spending your time on in the future. Some people say, Michael, I'm too busy. I don't have time to reflect. I got to work. Yeah, but you might be working on running that mile, and 3/4 of a mile ahead, there's a cliff. You have to reflect on the things that you're doing. And then being grateful all around, just, so grateful, right? Think about, I know some people are, shoes are nice. Shoes are fun, right? Girls' shoes, boys' shoes, all kinds of shoes. Shoes are nice. And so sometimes people go, oh man, I don't have nice shoes. And then you look around and then you realize, you know what? There are people in this city or in whatever city you're in. There are people in this city right now that don't have shoes. And here we are complaining that our shoes aren't the nicest. Be grateful for what you have, because even though you have shoes, some people don't have shoes. Now, what if you don't have shoes? How can you be grateful? You can be grateful because some people don't have feet. Some people don't have feet. So here, you got to check yourself, right? Sometimes we're like, oh man, these shoes aren't the nicest shoes. Well, at least I have shoes. Well, hey, at least I have feet. You know what I mean? How many people every day have to wake up and struggle and put themselves into a wheelchair? And guess what? They're still grateful for that because they said, well, thank God I still have this wheelchair, right? What if they were in the 1800s? Could they have the wheelchair they have right now? Absolutely not. So there's still stuff to be grateful for. So if you ever want to bitch and moan in front of me, I will slap you in the face. Just kidding. I'm not a not a violent person, but I will remind you what to be grateful for because there's so many things. Right? I hear people complaining about their phone or their iPad or their laptop, and I'm like, guys, you have a laptop, you have a phone, you have a thing. It doesn't matter if it's not brand new, right? How about I smash it? Then what? Then you'll be grateful. Then you'll wish you had that computer, right? So always, no matter what you have, 100% gratitude all the time. Even when you go places and you're delayed and people miss up on appointments and people this, people that, no matter what, this attitude of gratitude will make sure, one, you don't get burnt out. And then two, it'll attract people to you in a way that is just, it's undeniable. They'll be like, I don't know what I like about you. And you'll be like, you know what? I'm so grateful for you. And they'll be like, that's what it is. So now you know what you want to be, gap you want to close, how you want to go about it, what your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, interests are. Now you're in the right company. You have people around you that have talents, skills, abilities. They have information. They have ideas. They have resources and introductions they can give you. You're in the right place. The key is showing up in this Renata system. Here's how you need to show up. You need to show up with a teachable spirit, a teachable attitude, a coachable mindset, ready and willing to change. Always being prepared. There are some people's phone calls who I will no longer take because they will not have a pen and paper in their hand. They will not open up their note app and actually document what we're talking about, what we're committing to, what we're creating. And then I call them in a few days. I'm like, hey, did you do what you said? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, here in my notes, this is what it says. I remember our conversation and you don't. So guess what? You now, we're not, that's it. So always be prepared. Now that's just my standard. Now when I call Bob Snyder, when I call Garrett Gunderson, when I call my John Maxwell coach, I got a pen in my hand. I got my note app open. I'm ready to capture what's going on. And you know, while you're writing down notes, sometimes it's silent. And so I'll just tell them, oh, I'm writing that down. Right? Bob Snyder says some gem. I'm like, oh, writing that down. Constantly being prepared for your phone calls, being prepared for your meetings, right? Being prepared at your meetings. Like, why the hell would you leave your laptop in the car? Right? You come over to the office for a call party. Why is your laptop in the car or at your house? Be prepared. Why don't you have a phone charger with you? Some people show up with a dead phone. Why don't you have a phone charger with you? Put it in your pocket. Always be prepared, right? Some people show up to the meetings in their work uniform and they're like, I didn't have time to go home and change. What? You knew you were coming here. Just put a shirt in the car and change your shirt when you get here, right? Always be prepared. Asking tough questions, right? Staying in the coachable mindset means asking questions that are challenging your own paradigm, that are challenging the way you want to go about this. So you got to ask tough questions of yourself, from your coach. You got to ask questions. Also, you have to demonstrate that you are learning from them. Are the things that we're talking about actually working? Demonstrate that. Show us. Come to the leaders retreat. Earn that 1-star. Earn that 5-star. I don't care if you're not money motivated. Go earn some money. Strictly as a means of showing gratitude towards your coaches and mentors and your affiliates that have been training you. Maybe you don't want 10 grand this month. Well, too bad. Go and demonstrate your gratitude for the training, for the effort, for the systems that other people have made, right? Maybe you're just grateful for the classes and the awareness. Well, great. Go spread that gratitude to other people and let them have the classes. Demonstrate learning from them. And then be accountable. When someone asks you a direct question, how many this? Answer it. When did you that? Answer it. Don't start with a story. Right? I asked someone the other day how many books they've read since they started Renatus. Because the only thing next for them to say was a number, but instead they said a story about how it's hard to read and they fall asleep and this and that and they don't know and they misplaced this book and blah, 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 blah. And they just didn't get it. They weren't being accountable. All I was wondering is, how many books did you read? I don't care. It could be 0. It could be 5 million. I don't care. Just be accountable with your words. When someone's asking you, what did you do? How many Super Saturdays did you go to? Were you on time? A simple yes or no. Okay? Be accountable. Be accountable. Be accountable. Be accountable. Oh. All right, we got to get on the Pat call. Here's how it works, though. With your coaching or your mentoring or your affiliate, your 5-star affiliate relationship, think about it this way and take a screenshot of this right here. Here's what I asked you. Here's what I heard you say. Here's what I did. Now can I ask more questions? Right, and making sure and showing people that you have this coachability, this learning awareness. So just briefly, all right, so here's what I asked you. Here's what I heard you say. Here's what I asked you. Here's what I heard you say. Here's what I did about it. Here's my next question. But if you just have this list of questions and you're not hearing what we're saying and you're just going through questions, it's not really a conversation. And if you're going to operate like that, then just go read a book and don't call someone and waste their time. Now, by no means am I saying anyone on the line here has been wasting my time. But what I'm saying is you might be wasting someone's time showing up the way you're showing up. So just be careful. So as we're wrapping up this awareness and becoming a person of awareness, here are some questions that you need to ask yourself. What is it going to cost to change? To hit the kind of change you really want to make? It's going to cost. It's going to cost the old version of you. It's going to cost the old awareness, the old language, the old patterns. It's going to cost. When can you start? And what will it look like when you get there? What will it look like? Oh man, I can see it now. Tasty. All right, becoming a person of awareness with passion and purpose, being intentional with what we're doing. I got a couple more laws that we're going to cover, but we are out of time for today. So congrats on being here. Share this with your new IMAs and get more people involved. You know how to share this link, share this Zoom webinar link so people can hop on tomorrow morning and the next day and the next day, and let's stay involved. All right, guys, have a wonderful day. Stay focused. Price is going up. Call people, let them know. Do them a favor. 4 core beliefs. You guys are awesome. Stay focused. Take care. Bye-bye.